I request everybody to kindly be seated so that we can begin with the session. I request everybody to kindly cooperate with us so that we can begin with the session as soon as you are seated. I know this is one of the much awaited
यहाँ खड़े
sessions.
ना होइए, आप लोग बैठ जाएं या पीछे चले जाइए.
Thank you so much to all the elite panelists, and thank you so much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, can there be some kind of silence and order in the hall? Quickly. Because Mr. Amir Khan has only 20 minutes and we must get...
नहीं, मेरे पास बहुत टाइम है.
So, our moderator has already, Master of Ceremony has already given the introduction of all the guests. But quickly, yesterday Prime Minister gave a very big ambitious agenda to all the stakeholders. And he gave a plan that now you all stakeholders have to work towards it. One revelation I want to make to you all. Between India and China, there is a huge possibility of movies, cooperation, co-production, and large, deep partnerships. And we already have 2 goodwill ambassadors appointed years ago. One is Mr. Amir Khan, and another is Mr. Prasad Shetty. Then we have 2 Chinese ambassadors who have been working with India since many years. Stanley Tong and Peter Chan. They are award-winning filmmakers. And if you know Jackie Chan, he is actually an AI avatar. The real stuntman is who has become a big filmmaker. So, Amir, over to you. Just contextualize this for us. What Prime Minister has envisioned and how are we going to make Indian creator economy and entertainment sector a global hub? And what role India and China can play in this?
Well, you know, I've had the opportunity to visit China a number of times in the last 6 to 8 years, 10 years. And there are a few things that I would like to share with you all, which really, you know, I think there's a lot of potential. First, I feel that audiences in China, the cultural, you know, flavor in China, the emotions of the people in China, they're very similar to the emotions of Indians. So the Chinese audience reacts in a very similar way to content the way that Indian. That's what my experience was when I was watching, you know, a number of my films in the screen in China, and the audience was reacting to Dangal, let's say. There was absolutely no difference between an Indian audience reacting to the film and a Chinese audience reacting. It was almost identical, the reaction. So I feel that there is a lot of scope and potential for a number of reasons. One, I think India has a very vibrant creative community, and so does China. China has got amazing creative people. I've been to China a number of times. I've seen their live events as well, and I've seen their movies. Their standard of their work is clearly world class. And I think that that itself is a great opportunity for India and China to collaborate and work together. I think that whether it's creatively, whether it's on an emotional level, or whether it's even from a business perspective, I think it is only a win-win if, you know, we collaborate with China. And in fact, over the years, I have been in discussions with, you know, my friends from China, and we have often explored the possibility. But now with waves coming in, I think it will give a further drive towards that. I mean, if you look at a film, Indo-Chinese film, if you have a star from China and you have a star from India, that's roughly half the population of the earth, if you know what I mean. You know, so you have a huge audience already over there. And both India and China have a they're very ancient civilizations with a lot of history to them. Both India and China are very ancient civilizations. So I think there's a lot that both of these countries and cultures can offer each other. And I really look forward to a collaboration with talent from China.
Prasad, would you like to talk about how currently Chinese audiences are perceiving India? What kind of storytelling they would look out for, and what are the potential areas we should work?
So one of the things which kind of personally for me when I went to China years ago was that the way human emotion works, the way family emotion works, the way the value system about parents aspiring for their kids to be successful, worried about their marriage, even smaller details like, how a parent will take care of its kids all the way till they are 40, 45. It's very similar. So I realized that one of the biggest opportunity Indian filmmakers had for China as a market was to tell stories which are very authentic to Indian culture. Because there's not so much difference between Indian culture and Chinese culture. So there is no requirement for say, okay, let's go back to the factory and find out what is that formula which will crack the market. No. We'll make good films here. We'll make good films anywhere. And China somehow has accepted the cinema from around the world. Whether it's Amir's films, whether it's films from France, whether it's film from any part of the world. It's the story, it's the way the emotions have worked in your own country. That's the same way it works in China.
Yeah.
Especially with Amir, a few of the films which we worked together on. I remember a very interesting story about PK. And the first time, I saw the film and, it made me cry. I remember, our previous panel guest was here. I saw it in Raju's office. And then my first reaction is that there was a Chinese assistant of mine who was laughing at the same jokes which I was laughing at with subtitles. She was crying at the same point. That gave me the confidence saying, oh, we don't really need to customize a film for a market. You just make a film with full honesty, with the craft honesty towards the craft, honesty towards the story. And it just resonates.
Stanley, you have worked on 3 films.
How many films have you shot in India, Stanley?
I actually shot 3 films in India.
So why don't you talk about your experience working in India? Because what Prime Minister has envisioned is that we now create in India, shoot in India, and the story should be rooted in India. How do you react to that?
Well, actually, the reason why I come to India to make movies is like when I was a kid in primary school. When I always draw the Taj Mahal. The building, the architect is so fascinated. And then when I learned martial art, the Shaolin Kung Fu, and I found, Damo is coming from India.
Bodhidharma.
Yeah,
Bodhidharma.
and Buddha, the Buddhism, I studied that. And then when I make the movie 20 years ago, The Myth with Jackie Chan, and I put in the Karate Paya too, the ancient, Indian martial art into the movie. Yeah, and I want to show, a lot of Chinese audience doesn't know about Karate Paya too, and also I found out there's so many beautiful scenery, and a lot of great cultures that we don't know. And only when I come over in 1993, first time, I actually from the Himalaya to the south to the Bangalore, I tour around the whole country. And I found so many fascinated and so many stories that I want to make. So for the last 20 years, and I managed to make 3 films in India. Because I found India film, I learned a lot because India film always about family value, friendship, love, and social issue. All of these issues is really resonate to the Chinese audience. Emotional and relatable storytelling that I think that in the future, there's a lot of opportunity for us to be joined together because we are a good neighbor, and then we share our culture for thousands of years, you know. And I was just talking to Prasad, you know, on my way to India, and we were waiting on the launch. We talk about free story that a connect that we could make together. I've been talking to Amir, you know, and working together on some projects. So I really wanted to have more co-production between China and India. And just like what Amir was saying, that we have huge population, we have huge follower for Bollywood movie and also Chinese movie. Why don't we make more movie together and we share our actors, we share our writers and directors, then maybe we can make some better film for the world. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Peter, would you like to throw some light on the way forward? Looking at your experience, what could be the next immediate steps that all the creators, filmmakers, producers should think about and start working on some projects? And what could be the framework? It will be co-production, it could be JV. How do we take the next step?
Before I answer that question, I have to admit that I am the least qualified speaker on this forum, Indian cinema, the Oriental outlook. Because, I mean, to have my 6th degree of separation, my only association with Indian cinema was Shashi Kapoor when I was a boy in the 70s. Because I grew up in Thailand, half of my high school class are Indians, and I would be eating their lunchbox aloo prata, which I kept asking for that when I come to India, and my friend Prasad keeps saying that nobody eats that. You don't order aloo prata in the restaurant.
You don't get aloo paratha in Mahesh lunch home. You know, you should not.
Not in Mahesh lunch home, but you'll get it everywhere
Else, dog.
I always ask for aloo prata, aloo prata. And well, that's my other association with Indian cinema was in 2005. I was asked to make a musical by 3 Indian investors. One Tamil Indian, one from Malaysia, one from Sri Lanka, and one from Hong Kong, to make a first musical in China called Perhaps Love. And I flew into Mumbai for the first time, and I met with Farah Khan, who was the top grossing director from Om Shanti Om. And she agreed to be my choreographer, and she brought 12 Indian dancers to be in Shanghai in the musical with all Chinese, but 12 Indian dancers. And so that's an anomaly. So that is not really an Indian-China co-production, but because we could use services and expertise from each other's industry, we got to work together. And I started making friends with Indian filmmakers, Amir, Prasad, who lives close by in Shanghai. And then I also met with Raju. I was made by my assistant to watch 3 Idiots, where the first 15 minutes I couldn't get into because it's very different from my style of filmmaking. And it took me 3 to 4 times until I watched the whole thing. And I watched it 5 times with my daughter, with my wife, and then with my 3 different group of friends in the cinema. And that took me completely into the world of Indian cinema. And back then there was still a lot of song and dance. And now Indian cinema has evolved into something that is not strictly Bollywood, like we used to know Bollywood. So, and then I make friends with Kabir Khan, who has great stories to tell. And I think it's about time that we, of course, between the Chinese population and the Indian population, I mean, we have more than half of the population of the world, but I think we need to make movies for the world. I mean, half the population is not enough. And to be able to please each other by putting an Indian actor in a Chinese film or a Chinese actor in an Indian film, I think it's not the only way to go. I think we should make the movie that we believe, we love. If it's a local movie, make it local. Look at, COVID was a sad thing, but between COVID and the streamers, the world is watching Korean cinema in subtitles, Thai cinema, Indian cinema, series, and Japanese. And one of the greatest show I watched a month ago, Adolescents, they speak English with such a heavy northern grassroots accent that is almost like foreign language to everyone. So in that respect, I think any language or any race or any color, it's not the point. It's when the story resonates with you and you can make it, and we need to try to build a collective between filmmakers in Asia, because we do have enough of a calling power, because we have enough population in our own territory. And when we have movies that could appeal to any ordinary folk internationally, we should collectively bargain with the pipeline of distribution, which still belongs to Hollywood at the moment. Although Hollywood and the studio is still trying to figure out what is the future. Because with COVID and with the streamers, I think the studio is also trying to find out what's going on with the world ahead of us. I think this is a very good opportunity for us to be able to make the story that we love. It could be as local as possible, and I still believe in the word local is global, because we're all human beings after all.
So, very important points. Now we should dig deeper with Amir. And before I ask Amir to comment on that, there are three very clear milestones. One is 2013, when Three Idiots was released in China, and it did pretty well on the box office. Then 2015, Prime Minister Narendra Modi signed a bilateral agreement to co-produce films. That agreement exists. Then 2020, Dangal.
2016 it released here, so 2017
it released in
China.
17
few
in
months
China.
later.
Again, a benchmark that how successful Indian movies could be in a market like China, because as a layman, we think language is a problem. I don't think for storytelling language is a problem. Absolutely not. So, and you pick up themes which are of universal appeal, shared human interest and human memories, that kind of films you have picked up. So today, if you have to start new work with ambition, with big scope and big scale in mind, what would be your roadmap?
Well, actually, for me, I have to say that the way I approach cinema and approach films that I work in, it has to be a very organic process. So, what we are discussing on a surface level, that in principle, I think that there are a lot of benefits for talent in China and India to work together. But the best and the most organic way of that happening is through writing. So it is always the story and it's always a script that comes first, which excites a creative person. And it can come from a Chinese writer, it can come from an Indian writer, it doesn't matter. But importantly, it should excite, the creative communities on both sides who actually feel excited enough to come together and collaborate and make something. And obviously, it should naturally lend itself to both China and India in its theme, in its requirements of maybe actors, but certainly thematically something that connects the two. On a very surface level, you can say, let's make a big action film, let's have one Chinese star, one Indian star, and one maybe Caucasian star, I don't know. So that's a very surface way of looking at it. One can go that route, but I don't really... That doesn't excite me. What excites me is a story that, because, writing is a very lonely job. But the fact is that every film starts with one person sitting alone with a paper and pen. And that, is of so much value, I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. And that organic process of a person sitting and writing down a story, which naturally involves characters from China and India, which it has to happen organically. You can't force fit it. I always believe that you can't force fit anything. It has to come organically. With the environment being created, with the fact that as creative people we are being encouraged, I personally have now over the years a very healthy relationship with the creative community in China. So I really look forward to it because I've seen the level of their work. It's outstanding work that people are doing in China. So it would be a real pleasure for me to work with creative talent from China. But ideally, it should happen organically. It should happen in a manner which is very organic. I know that some films are made and a lot of them are successful, which are pre-planned. Okay, let's make a comedy or an action or a horror and let's take these three actors and make it. तो वो पहले project बनता है. First you make the project and then you write what you're making. You have to write a script around it. That's usually the other way of doing it. It's not that it's the wrong. There's no right and wrong in creative field, but I'm hesitant to go down that route.
So, with permission from our Chinese guests, because we want your message to go to the larger audience. Actually, अभी आपने हिंदी बोलना शुरू किया तो थोड़ा सा इस बात पे भी रोशनी डालनी चाहिए क्योंकि बहुत लोग ये समझना चाहेंगे क्रिएटर कम्युनिटी के लोग कि ये फिल्में
आप अंग्रेजी में बोलिए ना बेचारे समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं.
Okay. My next question to you is, but I want you to speak in Hindi.
अच्छा, okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Y'all are okay with that? Dual languages? I think for our guests we should stick to English.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
That's why I prefixed
Or we
that
can
with
switch to
permission.
Chinese if you know that.
No, that won't be possible. Yeah, so I wanted to understand from you, because technology and innovation and the craft and formatting has changed. So are we talking about large screen cinema, or we are talking about OTT? Because now some Chinese Americans are doing wonderful job in Hollywood, making micro mini drama and making billions of dollars. So what will be your advice to larger community who are in the industry, how to approach this problem?
It's not a problem. I feel it can go either way. You can make content which is a feature film, and you can also make content which is long form content, which has many episodes in it, which is series, or even really short content which you're talking about. So I think that can be, it really depends on each individual what they would like to make. I don't think I particularly have any preference between, that.
Right. Prasad, what do you think that currently, like he rightly said, that it should be organic, not just because one comedy or one action movie will work. When we talk about shared culture, civilizational commonality, then what kind of themes would appeal to Indian filmmakers, Chinese filmmakers and Chinese audience, but made in collaboration with Indians?
So I also very strongly believe in this word, even though it might sound cliche. I believe that stories need to be very organic. And I think most of us all of us in our panel will believe that story. When we think about a story, at least from a creative perspective, I don't think we should take into consideration what market, why we're doing it. Because today we live in a world where most of our emotions, most of our behavior has become very homogeneous. Thanks to social media, thanks to COVID, thanks to streaming. A young person in, let's say in Shanghai, would not be dramatically different than a young person in India.
Right.
And a young person in LA for that matter. So what has happened is our behavioral patterns have become very similar. So I don't think there is a need to try and crack a formula, because filmmaking is, I know there are words like formula films, but I feel for a larger population like China, because China is not a diaspora market for Indian films.
Right.
It's organic audience. So they will never connect with the film which doesn't connect with them at a core level, at an emotional level. And there are a lot of, as we discussed earlier also, there are a lot of shared values. What we can do to support it is we can facilitate more young writers, filmmakers from India to travel to China. Like what Amir did beautifully. For years, Amir has been so open about interacting with the Chinese film fraternities. We consider him As in, I sound very wrong when I say we, but we consider him as part of our Chinese film fraternity. He's one of our own. And that has happened not only because of his films, but also the fact that he puts an effort to travel to that market, understand, meet those creators. I think one thing which we can do to facilitate more storytellers to interact with each other is to have filmmakers from India to travel to China, filmmakers from China to
So because the
travel.
more you interact, then the more you brainstorm, then the ideas start coming.
Exactly. So it's still organic, so you can't game the system. So only thing is that we become more familiar with each other's styles. So now when yesterday we had a very lovely dinner and Peter and Amir and we were chatting about things and we suddenly realized, oh, we have common interests of something. Now that might become an inception in our head when we go back 1 year later, oh, suddenly that will click and come out of the story. So, that's the way I see the way forward.
And the other element to this action plan could be that Indo-China Film Festival kind of stuff and workshops. And all of that.
That's not a bad idea.
That definitely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. And retrospective of
Indo-Chinese Film Festival. So they have Indian films and Chinese films, and then during the festival you have creative people from both countries interacting.
Correct.
That's a great idea.
That's a
So
great idea.
at least my
That will
film
propel
will be
it.
seen by Indian people.
No, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think one of the things which definitely maybe part 2 of Waves, second year of Waves, we can set up a committee from both sides of the.
So I think this is one clear takeaway that you all think that one should start.
Yeah, no,
work
we should
towards.
definitely.
Absolutely. Immediately.
Yes, definitely.
One festival in Shanghai, another in Mumbai.
Yes, would love to do
We are running out of time, so last question to Stanley. In terms of business model and monetization opportunities, how do you think two stakeholders from two countries should plan a movie or a project?
Well, I think some of the movie, like if you say Indian and Chinese production, right? Like Dango, doing well in India, but they're doing super in China. Just like the movie that I make in India, Kung Fu Yoga is so in India, but it's huge in China. So sometimes a different story, different background, you might make it work in your local, just like the Jackie Chan movie I made, like some of them I do it well in Hong Kong, but I do it great in America, like the Rumble in the Bronx. And we didn't expect it because like the whole movie is only cost $6 million US. And then the distributor come to me and tell, if you want to have a broad your distribution in America, each screen costs you 15,000 P&A. So if you have 2,000 screen, that means it costs $30 million US to promote and distribute the movie. So at that time, for a Hong Kong filmmaker back in 30-something years ago, you can't even think that it will have a chance. But if you just have your dream, just have, filmmakers is all dream maker. As long as we work and we get together, our dreams will come true. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have enough time to do justice with such an ambitious subject. But in conclusion, I want to say only one thing. The hesitation, the elephant in the room about geopolitics and politics is actually has been thrown out of the window. Now two countries are ready to take big leap as far as people relationship are concerned, as far as cultural exchanges are concerned, and we are hoping, and I'm very, very confident that we will see some big action happening between India and China very, very soon. Thank you for having a chat with us. Thank you.
Thank you to all, and especially the elite panelists. I now invite Mr. Yogesh Babeja, the Director General, Central Bureau of Communication, to please come on stage and felicitate our elite speakers and guests of the day. Thank you so much to all the speakers and to the moderator, Mr. Sanjay Pugalia, Director, NDTV Limited, for making this session a very insightful session and a very interesting one. Thank you so much to all the guests as well. Sir Amir Khan, Mr. Peter Hosun Chan, Director, Hong Kong, China, Mr. Sanlei Tong, Director from China, Hong Kong, and Mr. Prasad Shetty, the Director from India as well. Thank you so much for making this as one of the most memorable sessions. Moving on, it's now